Hi, Bad Gamer here. Nintendo creators are suddenly pretending to be shocked. Shocked that the Switch 2 is overpriced, region-locked, and anti-consumer. But where was all this energy 2 weeks ago? When you were unboxing it for clicks, you remember? These aren't nobodies, ladies and gentlemen. These are full-time Nintendo superfans making regret videos after their hype train has already sold you the actual console. And now they want credit for being honest, as if they weren't part of the exact machine they're pretending to expose right now. If your whole brand is built on Nintendo and you never speak out until it's safe to do so, you're not just a fan. You're part of the entire problem. If you want more unfiltered takes like this, not sponsored, no hype train, no algorithm fluff, then subscribe. I'm not here to sell you consoles, I'm here to tell the truth. Only 10% of viewers that are watching my videos are actually subscribed. Let's fix that. I'm Bad Gamer, and I'm not here to dunk on creators or anything. I'm here to expose the system that rewards silence, gaslights criticism, and punishes anyone who calls out Nintendo's worst habits. Because if we don't say something now, when it actually matters, we'll be stuck in this fake cycle of hype and regret and silence all over again. Since the past few weeks, the YouTube algorithm has blessed me with recommendations from creators happily unboxing their new Switch 2 units, praising the console's aesthetics, performance, you know, the things that people do when a new console drops. Or at least that's how it started, because a new trend has emerged out there. The Switch 2 regret video. Why you shouldn't buy the Switch 2. I returned my Switch 2. Nintendo needs to fix this. Suddenly, after weeks of promotion and excitement, the narrative has shifted. These aren't unknown creators. These are channels that have built their entire identities around being Nintendo superfans. For many of them, their entire audience income and visibility comes from their association with this brand. Yet, we're expected to believe their criticisms are honest revelations rather than calculated pivots to stay on trend. I'm not above criticism myself. I've made hypocritical statements in my life. I believe most of us have or will at some point. But what makes this particular flavor of hypocrisy so salty is that it isn't acknowledged. It isn't transparent. It's masked behind concern and neutrality, as if these creators are shocked to discover that the very same anti-consumer practices that have defined Nintendo for years, and unlike smaller creators who often face backlash and hostility when daring to criticize beloved companies, these large channels get away with zero damage, dude. Their audience defend them, justify the contradictions, and move on, while the cycle repeats. What's important to me, and what I want to emphasize, is that I'm not someone standing on the outside throwing rocks at the gaming industry, alright? I love games. I buy them. I support developers. I spend my own money. I would buy a PS5 Pro if I could afford it because I believe it offers value. I would praise it if it deserves praise. I believe in recognizing quality, but I also believe that loyalty should never come at the cost of honesty. And right now, there is an overwhelming dishonesty in how the Switch 2 is being discussed by the very people who share public perception. There is a particular contradiction that I find impossible to ignore. On the one hand, many of these creators identify as gamers. They talk about gaming as a passion, a lifestyle, even form of art, right? But on the other hand, they ignore or actively defend practices that harm the gaming ecosystem. Practices that makes games more expensive, less accessible, and more hollow. Nintendo is one of the worst offenders in this regard, and yet it continues to receive praise and blind support and constant shielding from meaningful criticism. Creators with massive influence act as unpaid marketing arms for corporations that have no intention of treating their consumers fairly. If your entire platform is built on one company's product and you never use that platform to call out exploitative behavior, then you're not just a fan. You are the biggest problem, actually. Because in an industry where consumer power is limited, creators have the ability and the responsibility to advocate for fairness. Not everyone has a voice, guys, but influencers, reviewers, and content creators do. So when these voices are used only to feed the hype machine and not to call out injustice, then the silence becomes complicity. This matters Because gaming, unlike many other hobbies, is constrained by platform monopolies. If you want to play Nintendo games, you need Nintendo hardware. There are no alternatives. You can't emulate brand new title the week it drops, right? You can't play a mainline Mario or Zelda title on another system. Nintendo knows this, and they use this as leverage. They know they can get away with things that would sink other companies because their IPs are too beloved, too foundational, embedded in people's emotional histories. And so they exploit it. The Nintendo Switch 2 for me was supposed to be one of the most exciting releases of the entire year, but it has instead become a frustrating, disillusioning experience, especially for those of us living in Japan. Personally, I skipped the original Switch. I waited, I was patient, I had hoped that this new generation would offer a better experience, a fairer deal, and an updated ecosystem which is worth buying into, you know. But what I've received instead is a slap in the face in the form of a regional wallet assault, language-based paywalls, and an internet full of people pretending everything is fine. The most insulting aspect is the simple fact that as someone living in Japan who prefers to play games in English, I'm expected to pay nearly double the price for the international version of the Switch 2. This isn't just a matter of preference, it's a matter of access. The Japanese model, often regionally locked in subtle ways, doesn't always allow you to play games in English, depending on the title obviously or your account setup. This here in Japan has been a problem for a long time with many platforms and many games, but Nintendo's solution? Pay more, 20,000 yen more, for the right to experience a product in a language that in most other countries comes as a standard option. It's not just greedy, it's exclusionary, and it's deliberate. But Nintendo was not done yet, because not only do many of the game re-releases come with price hikes, but older games, mind you, 8 years old or more, are being resold with minimal upgrades at the full price. Even worse still, some of these upgrades require additional fees. Nintendo also continues its legacy of never discounting any games, and we all know that, a practice that feels increasingly absurd in a world where even PlayStation and Xbox regularly run sales, you know. And one more final insult, as if it's not enough, many of the physical games cartridges no longer contain the actual game. Instead, they include a download code. You're buying plastic, not product. It's like ordering a pizza and getting a photo of a pizza taped on the box. Meanwhile, their biggest competitors, okay, even with all their flaws, are not making people pay extra for language options or basic ports or 8-year-old games. Nintendo's behavior isn't industry standard. It's a power move, and one that they can get away with precisely because they know how to manipulate nostalgia and brand loyalty. It's easy to say, well, that's just how Nintendo is, but it shouldn't be. And look, I'm genuinely happy that some people love their Switch 2. I'm glad it's working out for you. I really am, actually. But don't pretend that everything is fine. Don't ignore the fact that the rest of us are dealing with regional lockouts and exploitative pricing and backward policies. Especially if your job, your livelihood, is built on reviewing and promoting these products. If you truly believe the Switch 2 is worth buying, congratulations, say that. But don't act shocked when others push back. And don't get defensive when someone like me says, actually, maybe buying an OLED Switch used is a better purchase right now. What makes the situation also frustrating, man, it isn't just the product, it's the cultural gaslighting. If you criticize Nintendo in front of its audience, you're negative. If you question pricing, you're entitled. If you speak up, you're the problem. But the truth is that companies like Nintendo and the creators who prop them up have created an environment where genuine criticism is treated as toxicity and genuine concern is seen as trolling. The gaming industry isn't broken because we don't love games. It's broken because the people with power are afraid to challenge the system that exploit that love. This isn't a rant for the sake of ranting. I'm asking creators, gamers, and people watching all of this unfold and wondering if they're the only ones who feel uneasy, You're not alone, okay? You're not overreacting. You're seeing things clearly. Nintendo is not your friend. No company is, okay? And if we want things to change, we need to start being honest about what's really going on. Even if it means giving up the illusion that everything is okay. Because it's not. That's my take. Tell me yours in the comments. Subscribe for games. Bad Gamer out.